Welcome to our fourth Wilson's ingredient box. We've got a brilliant dish here today based around Cornish lobster, Isle of Wight tomatoes, herbs from our farm, and a little crumpet made with lobster flesh and creme fraiche. Okay guys, so let's start off. Over here we have this beautiful live Cornish lobster. So obviously we're working with a live animal, so you know, ethics, sustainability and husbandry are absolutely paramount to how we're going to operate throughout this dish. We've got a selection of herbs from our farm. You've got some dill, some marigold, nasturtium, and then this over here, which is apple marigold. It's a completely unique flavour, really delicious. Some tomatoes from the Isle of Wight, some delicious creme fraiche, the dry batter for a crumpet, Isle of Wight tomato consomme, which we've got quite a name for at the restaurant, a bit of lobster oil, which we're going to dress the tomatoes in, and some beautiful new potatoes. Now we've got our ingredients, let's head over to the kitchen and put this all together. So guys, a couple of important points about animal welfare. Obviously we have a live creature in our fridge which we are going to eat. It's quite a difficult process, but it's part of eating meat is the fact that something will die in the process. So accepting that is important. Few points: always keep the lobster cold, that keeps it comfortable, and try not to prolong any period of unrest for the lobster. You want every stage with the process to be nice and quick. So I'm keeping my lobster in the fridge, wrapped up in a damp cloth. You will be getting your lobster wrapped in damp newspaper. Make sure it stays in the fridge the whole time to keep it core body temperature nice and low. That keeps the lobster comfortable, okay? When we come to dispatching the lobster, I'm going to show you a technique which I believe is the best way of doing the job. It's not particularly nice, but once again, eating meat is a process that we're all involved in. And I think it's important that we pass on the skills that I've learned to you guys so you're able to take control of your own food system. So a couple of bits and bobs we're going to need for today. Some store-covered ingredients you're going to need is some milk, a bit of lemon juice and a bit of oil, and obviously some salt. A large chauffon or pot of boiling water. That is what we're going to use to blanch the lobster in. You'll need a few other saucepans and bowls for dressing, but I'm sure most people have got them. This one might be a bit tricky. A ring. We're going to cook the crumpet in a ring. It keeps a lovely side to it. Anything like this would be perfect. It doesn't matter if it's got a shape around it. You'll just have a nice shaped ring. If you've got heart-shaped ones, I encourage you to use them. A measuring jug or scales. I like to weigh my fluids, but you can measure it. We're just going to need these to measure out 200 milliliters of milk. First things first, we're going to make our crumpet mix. Over here, you've got the flour, the sugar and the salt ready to go. I want you to get your scales or your measuring jug and weigh 200 grams or 200 milliliters of milk into a saucepan, okay? What we're going to do is bring up the temperature of the milk, add the yeast, and the heat in the milk will activate the yeast and get it going. We're then going to work the yeast and milk into the crumpet batter, and then we're going to let it sit for at least half an hour so it starts to prove somewhere warm. So, pan on the heat. Woo! There he is. Milk goes on like that. Now I'm just going to empty this crumpet mix into a bowl. Like that. Beautiful. I've just noticed that my bowl is too small, so I will transfer it into a larger one. Now when you're heating up your milk, you don't want to do it too quickly. You want it to be nice and warm. If it's too hot, it'll kill the yeast. You want it just to be, you know, a nice bath temperature. So yeast goes in, take it off the heat. Give it a good stir to make sure all the yeast is incorporated into the milk, starting to break down. Our yeast is incorporated into our warm milk. We're just going to add a little bit, not all of it at once, and work it through, okay? You want to try and work it so you get rid of any lumps, and the mixture should be like very whipped cream, like dollopable, if you know what that means. If you add it all at once and don't work it through, you're likely to get a few lumps in it, which is never very nice. And this is the important part here. This is where you work out any lumps. The friction of the dough causes the lumps to work through. So if you do it too quickly, you end up with a loose consistency with lumps of flour in it. So we want to just make sure we get these all out. There we go. Still got lots and lots of the milk left. A little bit more. And do this part slowly, because if you do it quickly, it'll go everywhere. Keep it moving. Don't rush it, whatever you do. There he is. See, starting to become dollopable. And the last bit of milk in. And then you don't want this to drop in temperature, because if the heat goes out of it, it will not prove up and it won't get bubbly and your crumpet will be a bit flat and sad. So lovely, we've got our beautiful crumpet mix. You see what I mean about dollopable? Dollop. Let's pop him somewhere. All right guys, so we're just gonna go to the sink now and give our potatoes a little bit of a scrub with a wire brush. What we're trying to do is remove any dried on soil, but also leave a little bit of the skin on, which is obviously quite delicious. Potatoes get absolutely abused in kitchens. They get peeled badly, thrown into boiling water. It's, you know, they're a great ingredient if you look after them. So I've got a pan of cold water. I'm gonna pop some salt into the water. You want really salty water when you're cooking these potatoes. Like that. I've got a bit of mint here. So I just give it a quick clap, pop it in. And I always put some oil, olive oil, in my water when I'm cooking the potatoes. This adds a slight luxuriousness to them and helps keep the heat in the water. It doesn't all come out, because obviously, it doesn't boil through the top. So you don't, when you're boiling the potatoes, you don't want them on a raging boil. You want them on a gentle simmer, so we can keep as much of that flavour and integrity inside the potato as possible. So yeah, got my water, mint, oil and salt. Just pop the potatoes in and then stick them on the heat, but don't smash them. Nice and gently, best beloved. You want to really look after them. So on the heat, nice, not too hard. Start it off quite high and bring it down, but you don't want it to be on a rolling boil. A gentle simmer, a few bubbles every minute. That's kind of what you want. So now we're gonna make the herb creme fraiche. This is what's gonna bind the excess lobster meat and go on top of that amazing crumpet that's proving up over there. We've got some fresh herbs. These are from our farm, so absolutely no wastage. And I wanna show you a trick that we do in the restaurant to utilize as much of the herb as possible. I don't have to tell you how much work goes into producing these amazing things. Mary's on the farm most days, as is Josh, watering, weeding. So I don't want to waste any of these herbs. So what I'm doing is, like, when you're butchering an animal, I'm separating out the different sections. So over here we've got the stems, and over here we've got the softer leaves. Now they'll both need different treatments with a knife. So now, what I want to do first is finely slice the stems. Lots of people don't use herb stems, which is insane. There's so much flavour in these, you just need to cut them thin enough so that they don't stick in your mouth. With a big, sharp knife, I want you to get the herb stems bunched up like that, close together, and as fine as you can, chop them like a chive. So we're going to pop our stems in the bowl. And next, onto the soft leaves. So these ones, got them all in a bunch, sort of facing the same way. I'm going to tie them up, roll them tight together, and then flip them over again. So I've got a nice big mass in which to cut at. So I'm sort of holding it together with my fingers. And once again, trying to keep the cuts as thin as possible so I get these beautiful chiffonade of herbs. The knife goes back once through, and it doesn't matter if the herbs bruise a little bit because they're going into a creme fraiche, so all those lovely flavours and oils are going to come out and perfume the creme fraiche. Now, grab our creme fraiche. You don't want to put too much of it in here. When you get it in the bags, it'll probably be weighed out into an ingredient bag for you. So here, just a bit. Beautiful stuff, that. Then just a squeeze of lemon juice. Ah, my potatoes are doing well. So now, just give it a good mix. Oh wow, that looks amazing. And it smells fantastic. You don't want too much of this. This is the cement that's going to hold the lobster. More lobster, less creme fraiche. It's always a good mantra to live your life by. A little bit of salt. Then pop it straight in the fridge, please. All right, guys. So our potatoes are doing nicely. You can see over here that there are a few bubbles, but you don't want it going too hard. They'll just tick over nicely. Once they're done, we'll crush them with a fork and just finish them with some seasoned butter and maybe some lobster juices if we're lucky enough to get them. Over here, I have a large pan of water. I'm going to really heavily season the water. When we get lobsters, the best way to cook them is in a pan of boiling seawater. Obviously here in Bristol, it's not advisable to use the seawater for a multitude of reasons. So I'm going to use some of this salt here to get this water up to the saline content that I want. Okay guys, this is the serious part. We're on to our lobster now, okay? So all jokes aside, we have a responsibility to do the job properly. I'm going to be working on a damp cloth. I'm using a small knife that's not bendy and is nice and sharp. You know, we need to make sure we get it done correctly. So unwrap the lobster. If he starts moving around, what you can do is rub that part of its head. That will calm it down. It sends loads and loads of senses to them and it almost relaxes them. He's still very much alive, but he's staying still. So I'm going to pop him there, moving quite gently. I don't want to like scare him or anything like that. And I'm going to put a damp cloth on my chopping board. This is to have extra support when I'm doing what I'm doing, okay? I've got a plate over here, which is where I'm going to put the lobster once I've broken him down into his component parts. So what we need to do is make sure that we're working in a safe and quick fashion. There's an X on the lobster, which is basically through the shell, it's where its central nervous system is. In my opinion, this is the fastest way of killing a lobster, which is what we're trying to achieve here, okay? Don't rush this, but when you commit to doing it, do it properly. So turn the lobster towards you. Make sure it's not moving around. So what's going to happen is we're going to insert the knife here with force and pull it through. This will kill the lobster instantaneously. It might flip around a bit. It's a good sign. It means it's dead. Often people think it's still alive. It's not. It's like when you cut a chicken's head off and it keeps on running. It's the nervous system reacting with all the energy still in its body. So what I want you to focus on is pushing the knife through the X and pulling it down, okay? So when I do this, I always have two cloths, one underneath and one on top to protect my hand. So hold the lobster here, put the knife in here and pull down, okay? So we're gonna do this now, all right? Just hold it still. That lobster is dead, okay? It's still flipping around a bit, but that doesn't mean it's alive. These are all just natural reflexes to what's just happened. So what we're going to do now is remove the claws just by snapping down like that. Put them on a plate. Take our cloth again without dropping the knife. Don't worry if it's moving, please. This is very, very much part of what happens, okay? Turn the cloth over and you're gonna separate out the tail. So I'm holding on to the body and I'm just gonna turn the tail and pull, okay? And what you'll see here, you've got this beautiful lobster tail. You need to get another pan with preferably iced water, if not that, cold water running into it. We're going to cook the lobster. You've got different parts here with different claw sections. The head, you're going to keep, and tomorrow you can make a bisque with it. I will be publishing a recipe to use up all the shells in so that you know how to not waste any of this beautiful animal. So with a stick or a skewer, I'm just going to push through the cavity over here, out through the tail, okay? Now what this means is that when I'm cooking the lobster tail, it will stay straight, okay? So we're gonna cook this guy with the stick in it for about 1.5 minutes, and these claws, which have really thick shells, for 2.5 minutes. Then I'll show you how I open the lobster up. Make sure this guy, really vigorous boil, okay, with a lid. If you don't do it with a lid on, the steam escapes, it releases the pressure and it won't boil as high. Claws in, make sure they fit. Start timer. You're waiting till it gets down to 1.5 minutes, then you're gonna drop the lobster claw tail in, take it out, straight into the cold running water. Keep it in cold running water till the flesh is completely cold, and then we're ready to work with it. I don't cook lobsters for 10-15 minutes in boiling salted water because it knackers them. This is a beautiful animal. It is so unbelievably fresh that you could eat it raw, and we really want to celebrate it here. So that's why we're taking this approach to it. 9 seconds. And lobster tail in. Take the lid off so it's nice and safe. Grab the bobster up. Whoop-ah. With a spoon. Straight into the cold water. And leave that water running like that, yeah? Give them a move. You really want to stop the cooking now, okay? Okay, guys. So we're now going to deal with our tomatoes over here. We've got a few different kinds. We just want to cut them down into nice ways that really celebrate the tomatoes' individual, unique shape. So these big old yellow ones, going to quarter. Pop them in there. This big old beef tomato here, we're going to just take some nice long slices out. Don't cut them too thin. Now, what I would say to you guys is any end bits like that, keep them, because you can make a lobster bisque with all the trimmings from the head and the shells you're about to peel in a minute. So now take your lovely tomatoes over here. Now tomatoes absolutely need salt. So good pinch of salt in there. And this will help really get those juices coming out. And a nice twist of pepper as well. So we're just going to take out some of this lobster oil, don't use it all. Add a little bit of it to the tomatoes and then a squeeze of lemon and give them a good toss and then just let them sit like that. Okay, so we've just got our lobster, it's out the sink and it's lovely and cold. So now we're going to remove the shells. Now this doesn't have to be stressful. So I like to use a cloth. We start off with the lobster tail, the easiest part. We're just going to pop it in there, create pressure, crack it down the top of the shell and then peel it back like that. Hand over there on the cloth. Push down till you hear that big crack and make sure the tail's cracked as well. Then you take it out and using your cloth to protect yourself, because lobster shells can be quite sharp, you just want to open up the tail. Right, lovely. Now keep the shells, please. They are delicious, especially when you make your beautiful lobster bisque. You should, hopefully, get this stunning lobster tail Still with a stick in it, but you can take that out. Big claw, little claw, plus the knuckles. So what we're going to do, break the knuckles off. We'll come back to them in a minute. Take off the rubber bands. Whoa. And then we're going to just hold the claw like that, and with a big old sharp knife, make a little incision in it there, okay? Then do the same over here. Don't go all the way through. And then do it there. Now, as you can see, there's some liquid coming out, so it's good to have a cloth to hand so you can clean it up. So you should, perfect. Keep that fat there, it's perfect for another dish. And then you're gonna just push this claw that way. And then you should be able to start teasing out this massive big old claw. There we go. Ah, come on, will you do it for me? Hey, there you go. So there's a lovely lobster claw. Slightly smaller claw. 1, 2, 3. Shells over there. Then open the claw out, crack, crack. You should be able, this one's slightly tougher. There you go. And the other side. There you go, another lovely lobster claw. We've got the star of the show, the lobster claws and lobster tail. Now, onto the knuckles. Once again, clean your board down. You really want to make sure you get all of this flesh out of here. So I sometimes use 2 knives. This little one here, great for picking it out. Oh, look at that. Oh, lovely. And then the same again over here. Watch your fingers though. Oh yeah, look at that. Boom, there he is. Nice to see you. No more, you don't want to waste it. It's not a cheap meat, lobster. But you can really get quite a lot of food out of it if you're willing to invest the time. This knuckle meat over here, we're going to use in our crumpet. Okay, so we're now just going to finish off our lobster creme fraiche. So this chopped knuckle meat is going to go in with a few of the juices from the board. And get mixed around vigorously in the creme fraiche, and that's going to be the dressing for the top of that lovely crumpet that we're about to cook. Now we're just going to carve through our lobster tail. So it's going to be half a tail per person. It's incredibly rich. I couldn't eat any more. Straight down through him. Ah, beautiful. You can see just a touch there. It's just what we want. Remove this pipe here. A bit raw in the middle, which is just what you want with lobster. Pop it back on the plate and pop it back in the fridge. So now we're going to look at our potatoes, make sure we're happy with them. Take them out. There's no resistance here. Have a little carve. And you can smell. That's incredible. The time that you've taken in slowing the process down, the potatoes have taken on that minty flavour. They're seasoned beautifully, and the oil's just, you know, it's really lovely. So we're going to drain those off. A little bit of butter in there. A little squeeze of lemon juice. And then just give them a little crush with a fork. Not too much. You want to try and keep their integrity. But you also want to just allow them to be dressed beautifully. A humble potato can be elevated to this really special thing if you take the time. Man, I'm enjoying that. Perfect. Just keep those in the pan. They can stay warm. You don't want them to get cold, but they can stay warm, and we'll eat them in a minute. Now we're on to our crumpet. This is sort of the last big step of the entire dish, okay? So a ring, some of this lobster oil. You just want to oil the side of the ring, yeah? So it doesn't, the crumpet doesn't stick when it's rising up the side. Don't use too much. Obviously the crumpet's going to soak up some of that brilliant, brilliant lobster flavour. And then the rest of the oil into a medium hot pan, okay? Get your crumpet mix, give it a mix, and pray. Drop it into the ring. and hopefully he'll start doing his thing. Just going to raise the heat a little bit. So it seems to me that I've overfilled this crumpet in my haste and eagerness, but so what? It's going to be absolutely delicious. What I'm just going to do now, guys, I'm just going to pop it into an oven to finish off cooking, okay? So we're 180 degrees over here for about 8 minutes because it's going to burn otherwise. If, like me, you've overfilled your crumpet and it hasn't done what it's supposed to do, that's not an issue. What we're going to do, take him out of the oven like that. Oh dear. Pop him onto a board and you're just going to slice the top of it off. So use your ring to guide your knife. Be careful that you don't get yourself here. Beautiful. You can see all the lovely holes in there. Ready to go. Pop them in the pan. Back in the oven just to finish off. And he'll be lovely in a second, okay? So guys, we've got our lovely lobster tail and claw. We've got our dressed tomatoes, that beautiful bunch of different herbs. We've got our chilled tomato consomme. We've got our crumpet, which is a bit... We've got beautiful, delicious lobster creme fraiche with herbs. We've got our crushed new potatoes. Let's head over and plate everything up.